Some PC upgrades in 2026 actually make your system worse, even when you spend serious money. One of the mistakes in this video is exactly why so many upgraded PCs end up feeling slower or unstable, and at the end, I'll show you how to avoid that mistake completely. In this video, I'm ranking the biggest PC upgrade mistakes I see all the time in real builds. We'll go from mistake number 5 all the way down to number 1. And for each one, I'll break down what people usually do wrong, why it causes problems, and what you should do instead. All the recommended fixes are linked in the description and the pinned comment. Let's get started. This one sounds smart on paper, but in reality, it usually isn't. Here's the situation. Someone is building or upgrading a gaming PC in 2026. They see DDR5 kits advertised at 7,000, even 8,000 megatransfers per second. The marketing makes it look insane, super fast, next level performance. So they buy 16 gigabytes of ultra-fast RAM, thinking speed alone will unlock better performance. And honestly, that logic makes sense at first. Faster RAM should mean faster data access, right? Better gaming, smoother apps, better everything. But then they install it, boot the system, and nothing feels faster. Sometimes it actually feels worse. Here's why. Modern gaming doesn't run in isolation anymore. You've got Discord open, Chrome with a bunch of tabs, a game launcher running in the background, maybe Spotify, maybe screen recording, maybe RGB software. All of that eats RAM, and 16 gigabytes fills up fast, really fast. Once your system runs out of available RAM, it starts using your storage drive as virtual memory. That's called paging. And even the fastest SSD in the world is painfully slow compared to real RAM. The result? Frame drops, stuttering, inconsistent frame pacing, browser tabs reloading, apps slowing down. And none of this happens because your RAM is slow. It happens because you don't have enough of it. The core problem is simple. Speed only matters when you actually have enough capacity. It's like owning a sports car with a tiny fuel tank. Sure, it's fast, but if you're stopping every few miles, you're not getting anywhere quickly. So what should you do instead? Prioritize capacity first. For most users in 2026, 32 gigabytes is the baseline. If you multitask heavily, edit video, or use virtual machines, 64 gigabytes makes sense. Once you've got the capacity covered, then you can think about speed, and you don't need to chase the absolute fastest kits. Around 6,000 megatransfers per second is the sweet spot. Great performance without paying crazy prices for tiny gains. Here's a real comparison. A 16 gigabyte kit at 8,000 megatransfers can cost the same as a 32 gigabyte kit at 6,000. In real-world use, the 32 gig kit will feel faster every single time. This mistake might just waste some money. But the next one, that's where people really start throwing cash away. This upgrade looks incredible on paper. And yeah, it's very tempting. Here's how it usually goes. Someone wants to upgrade their storage and sees the new PCIe Gen 5 SSDs, 10,000 megabytes per second, even more. Next-gen performance plastered all over the box. They think, why not future-proof the build? Get the fastest drive available. So they install it, launch their favorite game, and the load time is maybe half a second faster. They open Photoshop, same speed, they boot Windows. No real difference, and they just spent $50 or $100 extra. Here's the reality. Most everyday tasks are not limited by sequential read speeds. Games load lots of small files from all over the drive, not one big file in a straight line. That's random read performance, and Gen 4 SSDs are already excellent at that. Same thing with app launches, file browsing, and general system use. You're simply not hitting the workloads where Gen 5 actually shines. So when does Gen 5 help? Large file transfers, professional video editing with huge raw files, moving massive datasets every day. If that's your job, Gen 5 can save you time. For gaming and everyday use, you won't notice it. To put it simply, a good Gen 4 NVMe drive already hits around 7,000 megabytes per second. That's overkill for most people. Gen 5 pushes that number higher, but if your workload doesn't use it, it doesn't matter. It's like upgrading to a highway with no speed limit while still being stuck in city traffic. So what should you do instead? Buy a high-quality Gen 4 NVMe drive. Look for good endurance, a DRAM cache, and solid real-world reviews. Samsung, WD, Crucial, and SK Hynix all make great options. You'll save money and get performance that feels exactly the same in daily use. And now we move on to a mistake that doesn't just waste money, it can actually cause serious system problems. Quick reminder, if this video is helping you out, hit like and subscribe. It really supports the channel. This is where instability begins, and it catches a lot of people off guard. Here's the typical scenario. Someone upgrades their GPU, maybe to an RTX 4070 or an RX 7800 XT, or they install a more powerful CPU. At first, everything seems fine. Then the issues start. Random shutdowns during games, reboots under load, coil whine, strange instability that's hard to explain. And the reason this gets ignored is simple. The power supply isn't exciting. It doesn't boost FPS. It doesn't show up in benchmarks. So people skip it when budgeting. They think, my old PSU still works. Why replace it? Here's the problem. Modern components don't draw power smoothly. They spike. A GPU might sit at 200 watts during gameplay, then suddenly spike to 350. CPUs do the same thing during short bursts. If your power supply can't handle those spikes, things go wrong. Weak or aging PSUs cause crashes, reboots, electrical noise, and in worse cases, they fail. Sometimes taking other components with them. I've seen builds with high-end GPUs paired with old cheap 600-watt power supplies. On paper, the wattage looks fine. In reality, the power delivery isn't stable. Voltage sags under load, the system crashes, and the user blames everything except the PSU. So what should you do instead? Buy a quality power supply with headroom. An 80+ gold unit from a trusted brand is far more important than chasing high wattage numbers. A good 750-watt PSU from CORSAIR, Seasonic, EVGA, or Be Quiet will outperform a cheap 1000-watt unit every time. Look for long warranties. 10 years is a great sign. Better efficiency also means less heat, less noise, and lower power waste over time. A weak PSU doesn't just waste money, it creates instability. But the next mistake, that one silently steals performance. This mistake is sneaky. Because nothing crashes, nothing errors out, your system just runs worse than it should. Here's what happens. Someone upgrades to a stronger CPU or GPU. They install it, boot up, play games, and it works. Temps are high, but not catastrophic, so they assume it's fine. But performance doesn't match expectations. Frame rates are lower than reviews. The system gets loud. Something feels off. What's happening is thermal throttling. Modern CPUs and GPUs protect themselves by reducing clock speeds when temperatures get too high, usually around 90 to 100 degrees Celsius. And the scary part? This happens quietly. No warning, no message. Your CPU might drop from 5 GHz to 4.5. Your GPU might lose a chunk of boost clock. That translates directly into lost performance. A real example. Someone upgrades to a Ryzen 7 9700X but keeps the old stock cooler from a lower-end chip. That cooler was never designed for the extra heat. Temps spike. The CPU throttles, and suddenly you're not getting what you paid for. GPUs do the same thing. Poor case airflow or small form factor builds trap heat. High-end cards generate a lot of it. If it can't escape, performance drops. So what should you do instead? Match your cooling to the upgrade. Strong air coolers or a reliable 240mm AIO are usually enough for high-end CPUs. Good air coolers are affordable, quiet, and incredibly effective. Liquid cooling is fine too, just stick to reputable brands. For GPUs, make sure your case airflow is solid. Front intake fans, rear exhaust, and ideally a top exhaust for higher-end builds. Cooling isn't optional, it's part of the upgrade, and all of this leads to the biggest mistake of all. This explains everything, and it's why I warned you at the start. Here's the situation. Someone finds a great deal on a CPU, GPU, or RAM kit. They buy it, install it, and the system won't boot. Or it boots but runs worse, or it's unstable. The parts are good. The problem is compatibility. Sockets matter, chipsets matter, BIOS versions matter, RAM compatibility matters. Even when the socket matches, not every motherboard supports every CPU. Some need BIOS updates, and if the board ships with an old BIOS and you can't boot, you're stuck unless it has BIOS flashback. RAM is another trap. DDR4 and DDR5 aren't interchangeable. And even with the right generation, not all kits work properly at rated speeds. That's why motherboard QVL lists exist. Then there's physical compatibility, coolers that block RAM slots, GPUs that don't fit in the case, power connectors that can't bend properly. A simple example, upgrading from a Ryzen 55600 to a Ryzen 7 9700X. Both AMD, but completely different platforms. New motherboard, new RAM. Suddenly it's a full system upgrade, or buying a massive GPU that physically doesn't fit your case. So what should you do instead? Check everything before buying. Socket, chipset, BIOS support, RAM QVL, case clearance, cooler height, GPU length. It takes 10 minutes. It saves hours of frustration. Tools like PC Part Picker help, but always double-check the manufacturer's specs. You can avoid every other mistake in this video and still end up with a broken or underperforming system if you ignore compatibility. That's why this is number 1. So here's the answer to the question from the start. The biggest PC upgrade mistake in 2026 isn't buying the wrong part, it's buying the right part for the wrong system. Compatibility and cooling come first. Performance parts come second. Follow that order and you'll avoid most upgrade disasters out there.